Chicago Public Schools employees lied to get federal pandemic relief loans. Most of them earn six-figure salaries, and the Sun-Times says one of the people is the district's chief operating officer.
Will Fletcher is the Inspector General for Chicago Public Schools. He joins us live now with more on this new report. Will, I know you don't confirm identities of those you investigate, but help us understand what these school employees are accused of doing and how you uncovered it.
Well, these were 52-week full-time employees who in 2020, in the early days of the pandemic, applied for PPP loans and essentially represented all host of things that weren't true in terms of having side businesses that didn't exist or having businesses that did exist but nowhere near the revenue that they were reporting in order to get loans from $15,000 to $20,000.
You know, I'm curious to know, were these individuals that were working individually, or were they all aware of what they were doing?
We didn't see any evidence of coordination among them.
Okay. And then did your report determine what these CPS employees then did with that PPP money?
In some cases, they spent it on vacations or, paying down credit cards or, using it for, in one case, we noted that they bought luxury items with them, but there was no uniform way that they spent the money.
So when you have a high-ranking district leader who's accused of fraud in their personal life, getting this PPP loan, does that concern you or trigger a new review about their actions while working for CPS?
Well, absolutely. You know, as the Inspector General, we have a duty to ensure the integrity of CPS. And if we have high-ranking employees who are in positions of trust who are defrauding the federal government, we certainly can't have them working with vendors, handling the district's money, administering grants. And so that's what prompted those investigations.
Okay. Moving forward, whenever we look at cases like this, we start to think, okay, how do we avoid this from happening in the future? As you look and you study the totality of these cases, what are some systems that can be put in place to avoid something like this from happening again?
Well, hopefully we never have another situation like we did in 2020 where the federal government needed to just infuse the economy with, a lot of these PPP loans in order to keep businesses afloat. But the problem that we anticipate is that CPS may continue to hire people who took out fraudulent PPP loans. So I think that going forward, the least that the district could do would be to screen applicants and prospective employees who are going to be in positions of trust, handling money, working with vendors to make certain that there are no pandemic fraud indicators or at least PPP fraud indicators in their background.
One more check that they should be doing in a background check. Yeah.
And I know the top person who was found in your investigation resigned. Others forced out, fired. What happens now? Are they on a do not hire list?
So I think they'll go on the do not hire list. I am doubtful that there will be any, criminal jeopardy for the folks that we discussed in this report. I think that the federal government is, they've got bigger fish to fry. I don't see any prosecutions coming down the pipe, which is why it's so important why IGs and other oversight agencies step into the breach to make sure that the people who are working in these top positions are trustworthy and will defend the integrity of their agency.
Will Fletcher is the CPS Inspector General. Thanks for joining us to talk more about your latest report.
You're welcome.